If you ask any of those large LLMs a generic question like who is Bill Gates, it'll give a very similar answer and you'd be splitting hairs to figure out the difference. But if you ask them a very specific question on a particular domain related to say healthcare or say astrophysics, then you would find a wide variance in their answers. So there is kind of I feel like a arms race going on between these AI labs.
At least, I think some of our audience is certainly going to be familiar with kind of machine learning models as we would have thought about them 3, 4, 5 years ago, right? For training, for defect detection, disease detection, et cetera, right? Obviously, labeling and all of the creation of these models, the engineering work that goes into that is increasingly important. What is new and different about the work that an organization like Labelbox has to do to support LLMs or other generative AI?
Right. So, I think there's multiple parts to this question. So first part is compared to before versus now, how has the domain changed? So obviously no one would even think about LLMs back in the day. It was all using machine learning for prediction and classification primarily.
Yep.
Now, with the advent of LLMs, the amount of data that can be processed for building AI applications, it has exploded exponentially. That's one. Secondly, the ways in which we can leverage natural language processing is absolutely unprecedented now compared to before when using LLMs now. So the kind of applications people are building for that leverage NLP, whether it's human text based or even human voice based, is unbelievable. So that's one. The other aspect is that the way how with labeling and so forth, the way it works is, if I may provide some context here, so there is a dire need in the industry right now for high quality training data. Mm-hmm. So the way most of these LLMs work, they have been trained on a baseline data set. And by baseline data set, I mean pretty much the whole internet. Which is why if you ask any of those large LLMs a generic question like who is Bill Gates, it'll give a very similar answer and you'd be splitting hairs to figure out the difference. But if you ask them a very specific question on a particular domain related to say healthcare or say astrophysics, then you would find a wide variance in their answers. So there is kind of I feel like a arms race going on between these AI labs to...
How much of that is due to the data that they have access to and have used for training versus something inherent in the model itself?
I think most of it is because of the data they have access for training.
Yeah.
So there's the baseline training and there's a post-training phase where these AI labs, they are basically desperate for highly specialized, high quality ground truth label data. And that's what we provide to these companies. So what we do is we work with say really specialized skill sets people from across the world who can annotate and provide high quality ground truth label data. So you can think about say radiology, say x-rays. So maybe a cardiologist who needs to label certain problematic areas in x-ray to annotate say pneumonia and so forth. Or perhaps satellite imagery, and then you need an atmospheric scientist who can actually make sense of that imagery. Or say nuclear radiation images, you need a nuclear physicist. So for these highly specialized use cases, companies like us, we come in and we provide those very high quality curated ground truth label data.